Okay, it's 4:30, so I'd like to call to order the Infrastructure, Transportation and Safety Subcommittee. Councillor Beatty provides the directs to this meeting, so we will have the land acknowledgement followed by a moment of sound reflection, followed by the respectful conduct statement. We acknowledge that Stratford is positioned on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe and the neutral Adelon peoples. As we gather, we are reminded that the city of Stratford is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples today. We acknowledge that Stratford is situated on land that was shared between the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and the neutral Adelon peoples. We are grateful to have the opportunity to live, work, and play on this land. Respect in Stratford statement. The Corporation of the City of Stratford is committed to providing quality service to all members of the public, council, and our employees. Our goal is to promote a safe, healthy, respectful, inclusive, and positive environment. We have a responsibility to treat people with respect by creating safe and respectful spaces. It is the city's expectation that all present will be respectful. Item 2 is disclosure of pecuniary interest. Seeing none. Item 3 is delegations and scheduled. Item 4 is the report of the Director of Infrastructure and Development Services. 4.1 is the Erie Street parking lot redevelopment update. And maybe I'll turn it over to Mr. Sprinkle. Sure. List the highlights.
Through the chair, I guess maybe I'll direct council to the image. It's on the 5th page of the report, just the 2-lot scenario, because that's what we'll be talking about today. Mostly. So this report is a request from council for an update based on what's happening at the Erie Street parking lot and potential redevelopment. Back when we resurfaced it last year, the intent was let's address the pressing issues, but we'd also like to see this move forward in some kind of fashion and see the site better utilized as opposed to a straight parking lot as it is today. Effectively, it's acted as a parking lot for the last 16 years. And so in this last year, a lot of legwork has been done by staff is to do the environmental assessment for the site. The previous one was outdated and updated. So phase 1 and phase 2 was completed by a local firm, Grid Engineering. And in this report, they found there were some impacts for the parking lot, definitely some metal and some salt related, which is fairly common for a parking lot location. There was also some isolated hydrocarbon found on the site, which essentially sort of elevates the response that's required for any kind of development that occurs there. And so that's what they found. So in terms of next steps, what we're looking at, the clerk's division spearheading a downtown parking study and strategy, which is looking at how to effectively utilize parking downtown for and how it relates to the future Grand Trunk site, as well as this parking lot in itself. That is looking to be completed in and around November of this year, which provides some guidance on how this area will be or could be utilized. Right, the thing about the other thing I'll mention is this parking lot has several easements and rights of way, which just largely restrict how the site can function. These easements and rights of way have been in place for a very long time. It essentially provides a lot of the businesses and landowners access to the property to achieve its intended use for function. Right, so a lot of like residents that have parking and rear building entrances, that kind of thing. If you look at the figure at the bottom, it shows essentially where the 3 main. Actually, so there are 3 main locations for these easements and rights of way. Essentially, they kind of align with the conceptual paved area. So effectively, all buildings on Wellington Street, along the southern limit, essentially there is about a 3 or 4 meter wide right of way or easement. that we're required to maintain, as well as that middle parking aisle that provides access to Erie Street. You can slightly see there's a dashed line identifying which two easements and rights of way that are to be maintained. And so that impacts of what you can do on the site. Over the past few months, I've reached out to a couple of the businesses and landowners in the area just on a concept that I'm bringing forward today. Essentially, and where I can see this being most optimally redeveloped is to start looking at this lot into distinct locations, being the northern lot and southern lot. And the main reason is to look into it having two distinct lots. To me, it makes it more manageable to redevelop, so you can kind of manage developing one while the other one still functions in a similar shape or form. It also allows for multiple types of uses to be utilized at the site. That's definitely one of the bigger ones. Financially, fiscally, it's a lot more easier to manage two separate lots as an individual project. You're more likely to get funding or be able to fund it. Such a project. So essentially what I've brought forward, it's just a conceptual in nature at this point, but where I see being potentially most successful anyway, is looking to redevelop one portion lot, probably the lower or south lot as potential future parking structure, which I expect will meet the future parking needs that will come out of the clerk study in November. My quick anecdotal look at this is I think we can put about 200 to 250 parking spots in this location, and that's for a structure. There's a way to cost affordably, prefab still looks nice, anything else, but maintains the key or local service that the city's looking to provide. And then looking at the northern lots, or even both lots, really up to the council direction for this, but could be a mixed use or any kind of special project for any council's endeavor. So like the kind of my thinking anyways is the northern lot, you can get your hands dirty and figure out what you really be the best function of this lot. And the south or lower lot really can maintain core city services being parking in this area. Part of the reasoning I'm thinking into this is very little is required to redevelop this lot into a parking structure. It meets the current land use type. So any additional environmental mechanisms to develop the site is fairly minimal. More risk management than anything else, if at all, because it's not intended for a more sensitive land use. As soon as you start looking at a more sensitive land use, like commercial or residential type development, then you have to go through your record site condition type process, and you just add on years to the overall development of the site. And just adds it for complications on to how it can be developed. So the bottom where I can go through a bit more detail, considerations that go into a structure type development versus a mixed use or sensitive use type development. But largely the main intent for this report today is to let you know that the environmental remediation has shown that there is some impacts, that it's not a clean site, so there will have to be some additional considerations, and that essentially a parking structure circumnavigates a lot of it because it's not a more sensitive use. So if there was desire to redevelop, it just could happen more expeditiously, effectively, as a council direction and information on how they would like to see that site developed. And then I think I look back to just the third or alternative option. So the idea is that I assume council's desires to continue to consider redevelopment options for this site. My preference is to kind of continue on this two lot scenario. It is most palatable to the landowners and business in the area. It essentially functions as it is today. It will help us also figure out the next steps on how to move this project forward. So like I said, parking structure is fairly straightforward. If the idea is to be mixed use, just add complexity, which is fine. Just adds the timeline to how you would see this site be developed. So Happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Councilman Gay.
Through the chair, thank you for this proposal, which obviously there was some desire from council to see something happen on that site. A couple of things. For funding, is it something where we can fund from the parking reserve over the long term for building a parking garage? Is that something that we would think about using for this?
Through the chair, the intent of the parking reserve generally is to be used for parking functions, not necessarily a revenue generator. So this would definitely suit that intended function. Anecdotally, like a parking structure would generate revenue in itself, so there's a good chance that it will run relatively over its life in the next 15 years, revenue neutral, at least anyways, or close to it. But definitely to help get things moving, I'm sure consideration can go into using the parking reserve to support such a program.
Questions, thoughts?
I like the concept. I think breaking it into two lots or two parcels is a nice approach. I do see all the easements and rights of way across there. I don't know if at the north end of the south lot there is it looks like I can't tell if it's a right of way, but whatever it is in the dotted lines where it starts north, goes south, and then further east, whether that could be satisfied with the gray area all the way around, and maybe we could extend that south lot to have a structure that covers those existing spaces or at least a few more of them.
Through the chair, I did talk to our solicitor regarding the easements and rights of ways. There is definitely some room to have the discussion to adjust those limits. There's a good opportunity likely to be successful. So the answer would be yes. This is just the first step, and then as we refine it, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think. Oh, sorry. Just to follow up, I think it's a nice start. I think once we have the parking study back, it will be a lot easier to put pieces together. But I think it gives us a foundation to move from, and it's certainly advanced the information from where we were. So thank you for that.
Through the chair, and I think also considering that we are looking at redeveloping GCR site or a portion of it sooner rather than later, to have knowing that site is already full for parking, that we have sort of partial solution during that period of time. It gives us flexibility to really think that process through and possibly move one ahead. So it seems that things are dovetailing in a way that could work. Regarding the north side, is there could we develop a plan to do some market sounding on that, whether there would be a developer interested in that site to also offset that the development of the parking portion of it, or even considering it for an affordable housing piece if we're looking for that.
Through the chair, yeah, definitely. In my mind, we are just moving forward. This would definitely be a parcel or a lot of interest for the community to have that kind of feedback and engagement for the public, what they would like to see in that type of location would suit the approach for that northern lot. I think the southern lot, if it shows the demand of the parking being there, which I think it will. Anecdotally, I oversee the Erie Street parking lot in my office, and every day since September, I only see one or two spots available around the noon hour, all winter long. So I can imagine not showing demand for parking in that area, but the study will confirm that. But definitely, the intent was, I think, making that more of a community engagement piece and have that discussion about what future use best suits that.
Just to add my comments, I like and support this idea of moving forward with it as two separate lots, and I do think it will relieve some of the pressure when and if we start developing at the Grand Rock site. So I think it's a really important step forward. And another thing, the speed at which we could develop that lower lot is probably an advantage as well. And Mr. Franklin was talking about modular, prefab kind of parking structure where you could pretty quickly put it up and it would be ready to roll. So that to me is also exciting. Get that sooner than later and then have the time to contemplate how to develop that north lot. In the meantime, once we have the parking available on the south side, so. There is a staff recommendation that council direct staff to continue the future evaluation of the Erie Street parking lot as two distinct redevelopment parcels as outlined in the bottom of the report. And that council direct staff to identify the necessary resources required to advance redevelopment as part of the 2027 budget deliberations. Councilor Davis, any other comments? If not, all in favor? That carries. Item 5 is the report of the supervisor of waste operations. 5.1 this is Stratford landfill public input invitation for June, and there really wasn't a lot of comments, so we'll be receiving that for information. Just to make sure, yes, the report title is landfill public input invite. We received for information. Councilor Hunter will move. Any other comments? All in favor? Here's. Item 6 is the report of the council committee coordinator. Cease. Point 1 is a request for additional parking spaces on Lakeside Drive at Plain Street, and this is coming from the accessibility advisory. Do you want to speak to it at all?
Okay, through the chair, the Accessibility Advisory Committee noted that there was a lack of access to accessible parking in that far end of Lakeside by the Festival Theater. Additionally, right now there's no parking near Tom Patterson Island, with the anticipation that at some point the bridge may be accessible there. It would be best to have accessible parking, and it just gives them more access to the park lane, Tom Patterson, the theater, all the amenities in that area.
Thank you. Are there any questions? If not, we do have a staff recommendation that 3 regular parking spots be converted into 2 type A accessible and 1 type B if necessary parking spots with the access aisle in between Lakeside Drive and base of Main Street. Decide that the cost of the project be funded by the engineering budget under GE numbers. Accessibility improvements, and the clerk be directed to prepare amendment to schedule 21, the traffic parking bylaw as amended to include 2 new accessible parking spaces on the setback. Council Manager will move that. Any comments?
Just a quick question. I assume this is just repainting lines essentially, is that correct or?
Through the chair, there is a little bit more than that. If you refer to the drawing attached to the management report, there will be tactile plate in front of the parking spaces. There will be also what we consider sidewalk with a curb cut as well. So there's a little bit more than just parking spaces. However, that budget is already in place, and the Accessibility Advisory Committee felt that that was a better use of funds than just fully curb cuts for the year.
Thank you. Sorry, I did see that.
Thank you. Any further comments? If not, all in favor? That carries. Item 6.2 is an accessible viewing area sign and installation on Veterans Drive. So we do have a couple of options for this one. Do you want to give us a quick overview?
Through the chair, Accessibility Advisory Committee a number of years ago recognized that the band shell and parkland on Veterans Drive is used more and more for public events, and the accessible access is just not there right now. They did purchase Moby mats, which did allow some users to be able to access, for example, the live music and foods this past weekend. And that allowed people to access the tent area. But a viewing platform would be easier. It would also be made for those people attending summer music events, where the barge is out on the river. And give them spots. So there has been multiple options given. So the preferred option, of course, is the platform. This is the most expensive option, and they'd like to see that included in the 2027 work plan. Option 2 is an installation of a sidewalk segment with a built-in rest area. So it's easier to design and install. Proposed location would be slightly offset in the back of the curb. So the slope of the hill would have less impact on that. And then option 3, of course, is to file a question, which means no action will be taken at this time. So, as I noted, the accessibility advisory committee is interested in a full large viewing area. It is a little bit more work. You will be a little bit more cost as you are getting into a sloped hill. So there will be some sort of routine that has to be done on the grass area there. However, those are the options that can.
Okay, do you have any questions, comments? Councilor Hayden,
Happy to remove the staff recommendation.
for the
To,
accessibility.
yes,
for
so very to the 2027 year's budget.
Are there any other comments or thoughts? I kind of actually liked myself the sidewalk option, and I guess my reasoning for that is because the sidewalk is usable year round for people of all ability levels, and it does provide some more immediate accessibility. So, you know, if the platform design goes to the next budget and it's not passed, then we have a solution for that area. So I don't know, I just felt that maybe the sidewalk segment gets a certain parking to the go. But it was sort of passed on to
Oh, just did just about the size of it. I mean, it seems pretty huge. 15 feet by 100 feet, I still think an imperial for length measurements. I mean, if that's what we need, I'm happy to have a solution. I was inclined to go with option 2 as well. But
Through the chair, we also have some anecdotal comments to this and elaborate upon Councilor Hunter's discussion there. The one point that I believe is brought in for option 1 is the idea of bringing a landscape architect. So in my mind, this could be somewhat conceptual nature in the sense that yes, showing us 5 by 30, but the landscape architect will play out squiggly lines, all other stuff. So it blends in with the very popular areas of the city. So there is that consideration to it. And if the direction for council is to make a smaller platform, and also is their ability as well, future days or part of this recommendation. The second part I will add is I did talk to our project manager before coming here just 10 minutes ago about ballpark costing and options, and essentially because the area is so hilly for option 2, I guess first of all, this would be a collector road. It does fit our absent sidewalk policy where we're supposed to fill in sidewalks through the city. We do have a large list of sidewalks, but this could be bumped up in terms of priority for that. And that could be included in the 2027 budget as well as be recognized in the program studies here. Alternatively or conjointly, looking at this might be a better location for a curb face sidewalk, which is a little less desirable in the sense of winter maintenance, because still things get pushed up on the sidewalk. It's more difficult to address. However, due to the topography in the area, it is something that could happen more expeditiously without necessarily making that more bus design to see what the implications would be. And just as a ballpark estimate of what that would look like, you're looking at between $40,000 and $50,000 to go from Grover to Marley. So that's in relation to the solution. So
just to follow up on that, then, so the idea would be to put a sidewalk in there, and that would be usable as a platform during events. Oh, is that? what you're
Through
suggesting?
the chair, I mean, it's the less desirable outcome from the AAC. It does provide a function, there are mechanisms such as closing the sidewalk during events, was not necessarily used as a sidewalk, but I think they have thought this through, so their preference is the platform. And I mean, in consideration would also be, looking at a platform networks, model where, your one is a sidewalk, provides basic function, and was not meeting the needs of the community, and the desired intent is most. That's consideration essentially.
Sorry, just one more on that point is, would it, like, if we went for the sidewalk option. Did we make it wider for a portion, like just put more concrete?
Through the chair, so typically our current base wide sidewalk is, our standard wide sidewalk is 1.5 meters, the air curve is 1.8, but we also can look at a 2 meter wide. Sidewalk for length and portion. In addition to the discussion about having general platforms built in, rest areas built into as well, but those rest areas start to push into where the elevation changes, so that might not be something get done on year one, that might have to be a future considerations.
That's right. Yes, we answered these questions. Did you have another comment?
Just through the chair, just recognizing that we don't know exactly why the accessibility committee is specifically wanting the platform as opposed to this other solution, or were they giving the other solution?
To the chair, I mean, I started in the English, and feeling what I'm missing. In my discussions with them, I mean, it's about feeling equal in the sense that if they're in the way of people and their way of travel, then they don't feel like they're being treated, or that there's a doesn't fit well.
And then, yeah,
So it's just like a platform is something dedicated space where everyone can enjoy. Main function for sidewalks for. Thank you.
That's right.
It's to the chair, I'm leaning towards option one personally, just because I think. That is a desired solution, and that, as I mentioned, that everybody is equal to enjoy the amenities, what's happening at that time. And I think that's if we're gonna do it, we should do it right, and I think we should offer a solution that benefits.
Do you have anything to add, sir? Jennifer, I know you.
Through the chair, I would echo Mr. Klaus on it. It's about being included in these events and having a large area. If you get 2 or 3 scooters or wheelchairs, it gets pretty tight pretty fast, and that sidewalk might not provide them the accommodation that they're really looking for. But again, any improvements are fantastic, but definitely the platform kind of brings them more inclusive into the events that are going on there.
I would love to see us do both. Like to have a sidewalk initially. And then that might take some cost from the platform. That like lower the cost of the platform, but I can see the platform having this kind of design, but maybe the sidewalk would be a little more utilitarian. I'm just a fan of having, if it's on Lecture Street, having sidewalk on both sides. I know recently, before I knew this was coming to the subcommittee, I was walking there last week and I was walking on the grass and I saw the curb cut and I was like, there's no way a wheelchair can get up in there, but I was also walking on that side of the street because there were a lot of cars and it was hard to cross to the other side. So I'm thinking for everybody, like again, for everybody welcome to be able to travel on the road, having a sidewalk as well as having a platform would be the solution. And you had a comment on that.
So the chairs. Council can provide any direction, include one or both, or make sure they're out. I guess one consideration if they do proceed with option one is that part of the to-do ask of the landscape designer be included as part of the concept or design for the site. Could build in the sidewalk to be consideration for future days. Project or. But also alternative scope really increase significantly. We could redo the whole area and then cross. significantly outputting how much we were still going to add to the city.
So there is a motion on the floor with option one as the recommended option. Are there any other comments? Thoughts? Call question. Okay, so all in favor of that recommendation? And those opposed? So that's to be it. So is there another recommendation that you'd like to make, Councilor Hunter?
I'd be happy to move option two. With the idea that, as you said, we could always add on later, if this doesn't work, but it seems to me this is a possible solution that balances costs. And still gets a solution, so that's why I like that description.
Would you be open to a friendly amendment to say that we approve the sidewalk, but then we also refer the platform to the budget for next year? So that we can still consider the platform, but also have the sidewalk just like that.
Yeah, I can support that. I mean,
Us, to begin.
My personal thoughts, and this is just a static thing from going up here. I prefer just a platform there and the space to feel like the way it is. I don't see a need for a sidewalk on that side in front of the band shell, but that's a very aesthetic kind of argument for me. So that's why I would prefer to have as they wanted for viewing, for presentations and events.
Thoughts? So do we capture the motion or was that deleted lines?
Just a clarification through you, Madam Chair. Is the intent to install the sidewalk this year or for the sidewalk to be included in the 2027 budget? Because either way it would be a referral to the mayor's budget. With respect to adding to the motion, the consideration for referring the platform, a motion was already called for that item and it was defeated. So the subcommittee can no longer add it back in to Councilor Hunter's motion.
so if I could speak to then the first part of the motion, which was that we had identified that there is money slated for accessibility in the engineering budget. I know we just approved some of it for the parking spaces further east. But if we can get the sidewalk built within this, my intent was to approve the sidewalk as soon as it can fit into the work plan. And whether that's this year or next year for the, in terms of work, but that the project be approved.
The chair, I think it's put into the work plan discussion by staff, flexibility based on our existing budget. It can fit partially this year, I mean, partially next year, or some variation there. It's only enough flexibility for me to.
Okay, and just a point for the accessibility advisory committee, there will be a new term of council, so they're able to bring this project forward again as early as 6 months from now. And the request platform be considered again, in addition to the sidewalk. So are we clear on the motion? Everybody understand what's happening? Any other comments? If not, all in favor? Those opposed? And that carries. Thank you for the discussion. Permanent updates. So I'll turn back to the director, the highlights.
Yeah, maybe I'll do the highlights and just don't let me forget that I had one, and I just emailed you. Just to get a good feedback.
Okay.
But don't forget. Highlights, there we go. In the last month or so, we've had several visits from Ministry of Labor. I think we're at 5 or 6 now through various locations. We've hardly had any. I do know the province has hired, intends to hire 130 new additional labor staff. That's probably part of the new initiative or agenda to improve health and safety across the province, but that's something that's happened, which has put a fair bit of pressure on our operations to make sure that we are fairly operate in a good health and safety manner, but we also make sure our policies and everything are adhered to strictly, and otherwise we have to respond accordingly. So that's caused a fair bit of labor in the last month, just cross those T's and dot those I's. And so far we've been able to manage successfully. Just a quick update, 40 km/h signs for north of the cities progressing well, so hopefully we'll have some movement likely in August, September for that. To demonstrate the success of our staff and how well we do, we actually have the highest ranking female for our public works team demonstrate her abilities in large equipment at a provincial event a few weeks ago, so that's pretty exciting. Public Works is piloting internal use of a crack seal, which helps improve our asphalt longevity. So far, it's looking fairly promising of the costing and length of crack seal being done. It's something we can do, so we might either rent the piece of equipment or sort of expansion in the near future, just based on the success. That way, essentially 3 of our larger reconstruction projects being daily here on. We're starting a bit later, just a heads up that it's going to get pushed into the winter months. So we already know what's going to happen. So, but we have good contractors on it, and we'll do our best to make sure we have the contract button up before the snow fly, but it's going to be tight. Here on street underway, just as a reminder that we will maintain 2 lanes at all times for that project. They are doing some adjustments to make those 2 lanes work, but in fact, it will be 2 lanes of traffic. Temporary lights will also be going in there, we help manage traffic flow. We have solidified our asphalt resurfacing for this year. The 4 streets that are being looked at are down here, north of the tracks. Waterloo Street, essentially for Lakeside Drive, up to Ontario and beyond, Norfolk, and that section of Cambridge along Erie Street. That tender is going to go shortly. The downtown recycling receptacles will be managed in 2 weeks by the province through that extended producer responsibility system, which is exciting. Into our hands. Currently, we're undergoing our waste rate study for the city, which we update our bag tags and our tipping fees. Just a heads up that both will go up fairly significantly in the upcoming years, but we'll have a more fulsome report to you hopefully August to show you how we're going to balance the needs of the public and expectations, but as well as to manage our landfill facility as well as connection of the waste. We continue to have issues with beavers at our storm ponds. Be advised, storm ponds through the city are not actually assumed by the city yet, or may never be. So a lot of complaints have come out recently is on private land. We're not going to manage the development and residents' expectations, but a good chunk of under control. And beavers are definitely a nuisance that are very difficult to manage. For the water side, this is the first month in 9 months that we've had 0 water main breaks. I think the discussion was it's the highest main break segment since 1994. So definitely elevate. I mean, just more thing if the cold weather we have this winter, I just need a different infrastructure. I suspect the upcoming years it will drop down again, but sure was that spring flushing is complete, so the distilled water complaint should reduce. And now we're on to the hydrant maintenance. At the 80 Erie Street, we've made some progress in terms of providing some space. We've moved a lot of our files that were once on our third floor down in the basement, so we've been able to gain back essentially 4 to 5 cubicle spaces, so hopefully that gives us a little breathing room for the next year anyways. July 1st is when our energy audits are due to the province. It's for our climate energy initiatives. And then announcement just recently went out that our supervisor of water was a successful candidate as the manager of environmental services. Great experience from Town and from him. Orangeville and from Hamilton. He's well received by our staff and managers, very level headed, and look forward to being in the position here. And then but there are any questions regarding my
So there's no questions that I will remind you about the room project of the band. That you want to keep it up.
Okay, one more, I just totally forgot what's going on here. So the other discussion that we have on the way is the idea of a pedestrian crossover at the Huron Street Bridge. We have got costing out point direction for staff for council here, but effectively it costs a little less than $10,000 to have a transportation traffic engineer specialist review this location to see if there's it's even feasible to have an out of the box approach, not necessarily design of it, but like it's essentially feasible. That's the cost if you want to move that consideration over.
So would you like us to do that today? Possible if
It's not feasible.
to consider whether we want to. So this is something that's been a big topic of conversation at ATAC and right, like that there would be a crossover somewhere near the Huron Street Bridge. Because there's so many people that cross there, especially tourists. And there's 18-wheeler trucks that are going up and down there as well, so it's a difficult spot, and it would be nice to know if it's even feasible to put a crossing in. So you would need for us to make a motion to.
The chair, I think the reason why I think we prudent just because it wasn't budgeted, it is extending into that threshold of where it doesn't fit well with any of my existing operational type items. So it's I would just say that staff be approved to look into this investigation that costs up to $10,000 and then it's from the public works reserve. That makes sense.
If you want to make that motion. Hunter, are there any questions? Today.
The chair, one of the things that concerns me about putting something there or encouraging more people to go walking across there. The 18-wheelers coming around that corner and then not thinking about it. So I think certainly we need some sort of indication whether this is safe at all, as opposed to putting up a giant sign that says "Do not cross here." Maybe actually safer for the public. I'm just thinking in terms of real safety. I'm concerned that encouraging crossing there is going to end up with somebody get by something.
Three chairs, so it's a bit more ad hoc than I'd like to be, but essentially the scope that we do have from the consultant would include recommended alternative options to crossing application. So is it feasible to do something here? If yes, would that be, but also what are probably more alternatives that should be considered that might provide the same sense of security or ability to cross something to the situation. So it's still a high level assessment, but it's beyond specialty that my answer generally is I'm not comfortable doing it here, but someone who does this for a living every day, just this type of work, they may have seen something different than I would. So
It's interesting though that corner is being reconfigured as we speak. So I'm wondering what that, I'm assuming that a narrowing of the lanes that will slow people down a little bit. And hopefully they get a little safer across so that that person would take that into consideration as well. One of the other ideas that probably came out of ATAC was Even putting sometimes small fence to prevent people from crossing, as we have sort of a front here on Ontario Street, and that's really the intersection, there's. I mean, people still would go over it, but yes, it discourages most people from running across there. So just, yeah, an alternative, some alternative suggestions, if a crosswalk is absolutely a bad idea. Okay.
But there's a pedestrian access under the bridge, isn't there?
It's
So
not accessible, but
I
I
know it's not accessible.
can we put some big old signs in it?
Yes.
It's an alternative to go on.
through the chair, last. 2 September, April, well, I did do an hour and a half investigations myself, anecdotally took the observations. I get a feeling that the students definitely use the underpass at the beginning of the year, I'm not sure how much they use it at the end of the year, so like. Of the 100 students I saw, I think I made about 2 across the road, the rest of them underneath, but I don't know if I see the same observation.
Yeah, and I don't think it's pretty too obvious to tourists that that's available, because they may have time. Wouldn't mind for a foot stroll underneath, but I just don't think the people know what's there. So I'm wondering too about some signage, and we love adding extra signage. You know, maybe it's out. The right people that might be an alternative, but yeah. Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor, are there any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Chris, thank you. And then the.
So this one, I don't need a resolution, more just getting a feel for direction from council, so essentially the applicant has come back. And just recently indicated that they were unsuccessful for the funding for the boom structure, which would cover approximately half of the cost, if I consider it now. The safety boom they're considering is about a bit budget $370,000 for this boom. To me, this seems elevated, but it's not my world, so I'll take it for what it is for now. They're seeking direction if we want to move forward with the safety boom. It's got 100% in our costs. And so I guess the main reason why I'm just seeking, I will and can come back with more information, or how to navigate this. Move forward there, if put up for the consideration, we could wait for another year and ask for funding again and see if we're successful then. But we know the issue that we had last summer. This is not a bulletproof solution to mitigate issues of the net, but it is an option to mitigate that. And so just more curious to feeling about this year.
I feel like it's a lot of money to spend for that bridge, that dam's been there for 60 years and we had one incident in 60 years. And the total cost was with everything close to $500,000, and that seems like a lot to prevent the once in 60 year event, hopefully, and not even guaranteed to prevent it, so.
That's what I do.
Exactly, I'm saying, I would suggest we apply next year and see what happens. Yeah, there's a lot of money just for that, and the risk factor is, it's not a huge risk factor for safety side of it, so.
I noticed that there is something there now that wasn't there before, or maybe it wasn't, I didn't notice it, there's white floats. There is something that maybe it's a temporary solution.
That's what the chair, not that I'm aware of, being part of the rehabilitation of the structure.
I just noticed that there's something else, wow, they put something in already, but I think what they're proposing is substantial. And according to Council Newsom.
Through the chair, the main reason we bring it forward, to meet the low risk in terms of health and safety based on the number of instances we have there. It's more the log jamming issue last year, how much precedence we want to put council meetings before now, we're supposed to look at options and go back and funding through. And so
It does seem low risk, I think it's important to prevent another one of these episodes, but could some maintenance and cleanup also do a similar thing, like just making sure that there is a defined view that it's not doing okay.
Chair, we're only 6 inch diameter
Okay.
ramps
That's
that caused the issue, there,
Right, right.
and then, yeah. We, it was to the chairs to elaborate a little further that we have come up. Or more formalized our response to dealing with debris as it comes through the river. The bigger issue is during the spring shed, where it like melts and comes down. Or during a large event when things are dislodged from the abatements and make their way down towards the dams. We do have both parks and water staff do observations, I believe, on a weekly basis, just to do a quick check and see if they can see if that's there. And then make those removals. The ability to have, that's essentially the extent that we have to mitigate grief from getting its way. Yeah. Works visual observations and responding to local businesses and the public exceed items of concern.
Yeah, I would suggest that a $500,000 ugly orange balloon is going to cause more problems for us than waiting to see whether we can get funding for it. It seems very expensive for what it's doing, and not guaranteeing that we're solving a problem either. So, see it.
Sir, I'll let you read.
No.
Through the chair. So basically, from the feedback I've had, I'll respond back to the ETR stage, essentially say that it makes sense to wait for funding. In the meantime, maybe we can consider alternative options that provide the same effect with them, same cost or visual to get it to reflect on next year. They seem, it's interesting that last year they didn't give me an option, and this year it seems like they're seeking my directions. It's a bit of a weird turn of events, but at least it gives me an ability to provide some recommendations of how wisely to achieve.
Sounds good. Item 8 is advisory committee about site ordinance, and we don't have any. Before we talk about the next seven, I just wanted to say a big thank you to Chief Anderson for sitting through our meetings. And always have a smile on your face. I'm going to ask you a whole lot of questions. I was trying to think of the specific questions, but I don't think I can shoehorn at it. But thank you for your service. Really appreciate it. And also welcome to, please, Deputy Chief Anderson. Yeah. I like the fact that it's going to be easy to remember. That's awesome. But welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, wishing you all the best. Okay, so the next subcommittee meeting is July 29th, 4:30 here in the council chambers, and item 10 is adjourned. Councilor Hunter will move, all in favor? You heard. Thank you.